9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hello, everyone, and man, welcome back. I'm constitutional attorney Catherine Henry, and this is season 2, episode 27 of Restore Freedom Weekly. It's very strange to be sitting here again and doing a video with all of you today, and on top of that, Lori is actually sick, so I'm manning the helm by myself. So bear with me, show me a little grace today, if you will. And of course, I have some random issue here where it's covering up your guys' comments, so I can't see the last couple of comments as they roll in. Anyway, hello to Donald Williams on YouTube. The Constitutions are the contract. I love that. In fact, let's get that one showing. We have Savannah commenting, when are people like her going to be dealt with in the proper legal fashion? With her, I'm assuming you mean the topic of today's conversation, and that is the New Mexico governor. Well, we're going to talk about that in just a little bit. Let's see. Big Bad John, greetings to my favorite lawyer and welcome back. God's blessings to you and your family. Hello to John on YouTube and Sean, and I can't quite see the name of Michigan somebody. It's cutting off the username. So hello to all of you. Thank you for joining me. And let's see. I'm going to go ahead and take that off the screen. Okay, so today I don't have a slideshow for you like I normally do. We're going to try to change things, get a little bit more engagement, get people more lively in discussing things and trying to figure out what works. But let me back up and say, first of all, if you're new to me, if you're new to this channel, we are live streaming, hopefully, on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Rumble right now. And so you could be catching us on any one of those 5 platforms. Give us a shout out. Let us know. I think the only one I can't see the comments to would be Rumble, which is weird because they require us to use a third-party streaming platform like this one, but yet they don't work with the comments. So at any rate, if you're commenting on Rumble, I will have to see those later. But I should be able to see the comments for those of you on the other platforms. So give us a shout out. Let us know you're there. Ask questions. Chime in. We're going to get started today on a very important, very timely topic. But let me just take a moment to say, for those of you that have been hanging in there with me and being patient since we didn't come live over the last month, I appreciate you doing so. I had initially only intended to take last week off when the year started, but of course, life does what it wants to. So just to kind of let you guys know why I was away, in case you did not know, we've had a lot of tragedy this year. Sorry. I'm going to try to make it through. I got eye makeup on, so I can't cry today. We've had a lot of tragedy this year, starting in actually November of 2022. A close family friend of ours who lives just right around the corner from us passed away with cancer, and that kind of rocked our world. For those of you who know our story about what happened to us when we first moved here, he was a part of that nightmare and was there to help us and encourage us along the way. So to lose him was hard, and we'd only known him for a short period of time. So at any rate, fast forward to March, and my sister-in-law passed away. Sorry. I loved Amanda dearly and miss her a lot and think of her often. We went up to Michigan in June for her memorial service, and the day after we got there, I was asked to speak at an event in Michigan, kind of up north-ish, and was there for a few hours. When I got back to my car and checked my phone, I saw that my aunt had passed away from cancer. And so anyway, then I spent the next few days with one of my best friends for over a decade, Deb Crankshaw. I spent the time with her in the hospital, in doctor's offices, meeting with pulmonologists and all kinds of other doctors and things, trying to get some procedures set up for her lung cancer. And things seemed to be going well. Looked like she was going to make it through to the end of the year to see her next granddaughter being born with no problem. I got in the car that Wednesday, I believe June 9th, to drive home. And late in the evening, I got the call from her daughter that she was in ICU. This summer was a big up and down, not sure if she was going to make it. Having me try to help get her will and her powers of attorney and things like that into place, and guiding her daughters on the different things that they needed to do. Keep in mind that my friend Deb was raising her, sorry, you guys. Whew. She was raising her 14, now 15-year-old granddaughter, Christina, her whole life. And you know, we've been good family friends, like I said, for a decade or more. I'm not sure how long Deb would say she was friends with my husband, but she and I have been friends for more than a decade. At any rate, it was, you know, just a whirlwind of trying to make sure she was okay, and am I going to be able to make it up there? And she would not do well, and then I would try to figure out how can I get up there. Mike didn't have any more time off of work. If I go, I have to take Emma because he works, but we couldn't afford plane tickets last minute for 2 people. It was just chaos. It was utter chaos. And anyway, I ended up finally going up on August 1st after our last live show that we did. And I drove 22 hours straight through with Emma, my 9-year-old, for those of you who don't know. And that was the longest single drive of my life. But I made it in 22 hours, got all the way up into Grand Rapids from Florida to Grand Rapids, Michigan, dropped Emma off at my mom's, turned around, went right back to the hospital, and then spent roughly the next week every day at the hospital with my friend Deb. She ended up passing away on, sorry guys, Sunday, August 6th. And so I want to dedicate this show to her. What I do is trying to serve others. Crap, my tissue box is empty. That means I'm SOL today. Good thing I got a paper towel. I work my butt off to try to fight for the underdog. I try to fight for the person who cannot fight for themselves. I try to empower, encourage, and educate those of you who are not attorneys, or even those of you who are attorneys, who are in government, who are legislators, or you know, in other aspects of government, law enforcement or whatever. I want to empower and educate you to fight for freedom, to uphold the Constitution, to fight for liberty, and to do so in the way that our country, our founding documents have intended us to do. And it doesn't take judges or attorneys or government officials to step in and fight for our freedom. No, it takes every single one of us. And so I have been spending, especially the last 4 years, but even before COVID and all that, I've been spending my time and my resources and my money on doing that, on educating and empowering people like you to know about the Constitution and the law and the proper limits on government. And so, anyway, in that fight for the underdog, I want to honor my friend Deb because she was not a freedom fighter per se in that realm, but she was fighting for the underdog. She did so many things for so many people. She was the woman that if you're house burned down on Christmas Eve, she'd give you the shirt off her back and the food out of her cupboards and, scrounge up any blankets or pillows or Christmas gifts for your kids that she could. She was someone who did anything for everyone. And I want to honor her with this episode for that. I also want to talk to you guys at the end of the show about some changes that we're going to be doing. And I want to get your feedback because, number one, let's be honest, I was getting thousands up to hundreds of thousands of views on Facebook and YouTube and the various platforms back in 2020 and in 2021. And then now that I'm trying to be a little bit more organized about things and not just flying by the seat of my pants all the time, I am shadow banned, and also just people in general are less engaged, less wanting to really work for their freedom by themselves and wanting to, again, rely on others to do it for them. So at any rate, I want to figure out which platforms and which ways to get information to you. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. Still doing videos. I'm still going to be posting legal resources and articles and example documents, pleadings and proposed orders and motions and all kinds of things. I want to help empower you guys in any way, shape, or form. Now, keep in mind as well, in addition to me trying to figure out the best way to help you all, I have a ton of super awesome freedom fighting friends who are facing all kinds of challenges and have reached out to me for help in various ways. We have my freedom fighting friend Foshin, say that 3 times fast, down here in Florida, but who also has Michigan ties. He keeps going, doing the good fight and wanting me to join alongside of him, and I want to proudly be able to support him. We have some other freedom fighters that I've been able to advise and help on various things and just kind of at least push into the right direction if I'm not in the right jurisdiction to fully jump on board to a case. But freedom fighters like Acura Amanda or Palm Beach Free Press or you name it. I also have some good friends up in Michigan right now that are some of the 16 that have been charged by Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel for being the Republican slate of delegates to report as electors in the 2020 election. I have my good friend Christina Caramo, who is the chair of the Michigan Republican Party, who is kind of asking me to get involved in certain aspects of the election fraud and things of that nature. My good friend 2A EDU, who's going to be joining us in just a little bit, who's got some different irons in the fire on the Second Amendment front, and some of his good friends, including State Representative Jamie Thompson from Michigan, who's fighting the good fight in that sense. Anyway, lots of things going on, and I want to make sure that I'm doing the work that God has called me to do. But why don't we talk about all those logistics and get your feedback and your opinions a little bit later on. Today, I want to focus on something that, quite honestly, if you've been listening to me for even a year, let alone 3-4 years or whatever I've been doing this, you've heard these things from me before. The topic about governors and executive orders, the topic about the Constitution and its limits, the topic about guns and what our rights are in terms of that. But let's dive in. Governor and guns, the Constitution not absolute. Yes, this is already season 2, episode 27 of Restore Freedom Weekly. And today we're talking about how the New Mexico governor bans carrying guns in Albuquerque and the surrounding county. She says that the Constitution is not absolute. Our freedoms are not absolute. In fact, she said her oath is not absolute. So today I want to talk about, what does the Constitution say? What can be done about it? Who can do something about it? So anyway, with all that being said, we're going to jump right on in to today's topic. So I do have a link I'm going to share that I know you guys have already seen what I'm talking about, but oh, it's not going through there. Okay, it's just a little slow, I guess. And oh goodness, 2A EDU. Hey, there he is. All right, so oh man, I made this tiny. Okay, there we go. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, how are you?
I think I'm doing okay. I think I stopped crying, although I should have brought a box of tissues in my office today. I was telling people about my situation for the last month and a half. Yes, thank you. That would be awesome. Could you just put those through the video? Michigan tissues are always softer anyway. Thanks. Oh, that's awesome. Thanks. By the way, you're looking good. The last time I saw you, I swear you had a lot more facial hair and hair on your head and all. Wow, yeah, you're all cleaned up and you look about 25 now. So very impressive.
Thank you.
So at any rate, the one thing I guess I did not tell all of you when I was giving you my little update is bear with me today on two parts. Number one, Lori is sick today, and so I'm manning the helm and pushing all the buttons and doing all the things. And well, tech hates me. And number two, long term and short term, I'm going to ask for your grace and for your understanding on how active we're going to be in our Restore Freedom movement and what we're doing and how we're doing it, because aside from homeschooling my own 9-year-old and having our 3 older kids and everything else, the 14-year-old who's now 15 that I mentioned earlier, who my best friend was raising, she is now here with me. She's part of the Henry gang now, and my husband and I are raising her. And lots of fun with that, but it's a lot more time and care and work. And so I just ask for your guys' grace and, quite frankly, your prayers as we jump on this new venture of raising her now 15-year-old who just had a birthday this last Friday. So anyway, thank you to all of you who are continuing to comment, and I'm sorry, I'm trying to scroll here. Thank you, Curtis Udell, for joining us on Facebook. It's been such a long time since I've seen you picking up petitions at my house in 2020, but let's see. All right, so looks like my link that I was sharing with all of you did not make it to all the platforms, only Facebook and YouTube for some reason. Not sure what's going on with that, but you guys, I'm sure, could do a quick Google search if you're on one of the other platforms watching us, and you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. This video is something that I'm going to play really quick, as long as I'm smart enough to do it. So let's see.
Point is valid.
You took an oath to the Constitution. Isn't it unconstitutional to say you cannot exercise your carry license?
With one exception, and that is if there's an emergency, and I've declared an emergency for a temporary amount of time, I can invoke additional powers. No constitutional right, in my view, including my oath, is intended to be absolute. There are restrictions on free speech. There are restrictions on my freedoms. In this emergency, this 11-year-old and all these parents who have lost all these children, they deserve my attention to have the debate about whether or not in an emergency we can create a safer environment. Because what about their constitutional rights? I took an oath to uphold those too. And if we ignore this growing problem without being bold, I've said to every other New Mexican, your rights are subrogated to theirs. And they are not, in my view.
Wait a minute. Okay. You're talking about crimes. There are already laws against the crimes, so how are their rights?
I got it. But again, if I'm unsafe, who's standing up for that right? If this climate is so out of control, somebody should do something. I'm doing as much as I know to do.
Madam Governor, do you really think that criminals are going to hear this message and not carry a gun in Albuquerque on the streets for 30 days?
No.
No. Isn't that fabulous? Okay, so let me hide that for a minute there. Oh, it started playing another. So at least on my end, it started playing another video. Um, all right, 2A EDU. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. And were you able to hear the video okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so shout out to my super sexy, wonderful husband, Michael Henry, Mr. Catherine Henry, as he was jokingly called in 2020 and beyond. Thank you to finding that clip, because that was the precise clip I wanted to share with you guys today. The reason being, there's so many things wrong with what she said, all in a matter of a minute and a half. Right down to when the second reporter is asking about, do you really think this message is going to get through to the criminals that you're saying need to be stopped? And she answers point blank, no. So, real quick, let me see here. So just so you guys have clarification, this was Friday. She imposed, the New Mexico governor, she imposed a temporary ban on carrying guns in public in parts of the state after declaring an emergency following the shooting deaths of several, although I think it was only 2 children. She declared gun violence a public health emergency in New Mexico. This is Miss Grisham, a Democrat. And again, she issued an emergency public health order this Friday, suspending the right to carry firearms in public across Albuquerque and the surrounding, I'm not even going to pronounce the county, but a county for at least 30 days. The order does have a carve out for licensed security guards and police officers, but private citizens with carry permits must transport their firearms in locked boxes and use trigger locks, etc., etc. And her press secretary, Caroline Sweeney, said that the violators of this governor's order could face civil penalties and a fine of up to $5,000. So I am going to comment on some of the things that the police chiefs and sheriffs and others have said over there. But what are some of your thoughts? By the way, for those of you who don't know, this is my dear friend, 2A EDU, who hails from Michigan and has been fighting the freedom fight for 2A issues for quite some time, but we had the pleasure of meeting at the beginning of 2020. And so with that context in mind, in case you couldn't tell from the 2A behind him on the wall or the 2A on his hat, that is why he's here today. So what are your thoughts? What do you got going on with this?
Oh, this is literally insane and just on its face a complete violation of the Second Amendment, obviously. And it's actually just so brazen. I'm waiting to see where she's actually going with this, because it clearly violates the Second Amendment. And everybody's running around saying, well, it violates Bruin and it violates Heller. But they're forgetting to say, no, this violates the supreme law of the land. We didn't need Bruin. We didn't need Heller. It was ratified in 1791 that the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And that's what she's violating.
Exactly. So we didn't need Bruin. We didn't need any court case. We didn't need any words coming from the United States Supreme Court at all, because we already had these rights not given to us by the Constitution, given to us by God and protected by the Constitution. And that document has been in place for hundreds of years. Couldn't say it better. You always have the most eloquent ways of saying things. I love it. Before we go on, I just have to say to my poor friend Foshin, his channel is This Is a Public Service. I always forget to say that. Catherine told me I look old the last time I saw her too. I don't remember saying that. I think I said you look older, because you were also growing some hair, I think, facial hair, longer hair. I don't know, something. It's about the hair, I guess. My husband does the same thing. Right now, I don't know, he's like a chia pet. It's like in 5 minutes and then poof, and he's got this full bushy beard and long hair, and it's like, whoa, where'd that come from? But as soon as he gets all, shaved and everything, then he looks way younger. So anyway, oh, I love this. The governor needs to be arrested. Anyway, I'm trying to pull out some of the good comments here, but yeah, you know, you like I said, you have the most eloquent ways of saying things, so I'm going to shut up for a minute and let you continue. Is there any other thoughts that you have before I keep running my mouth?
Yeah, it's interesting because she's talking about the only thing that matters right now is public safety, and that can somehow trump the right to keep and bear arms. And I would note that, look, this whole argument she's making requires a listener to be dumber than the speaker. So there's bad people doing things with guns in this area, allegedly, and I'm sure there is some of that going on, clearly. But the right to keep and bear arms is to protect yourself. That is for your safety. So in the name of safety, she's making herself less safe. And and all the people that live in that area. So it reminds me of like what the tragedy that happened in Michigan State here in Michigan. So you have Michigan State University. It's a gun-free zone. There's signs on the doors. There's laws against it. All of that. And somebody evil with a gun did a tragedy, right? So what do they do in Michigan? They come back and they ban guns from the Capitol building that's been there since 1877. There's never been a firearm incident in the Capitol ever in 150 years. So they take a place that was safe because the only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. And then they make it just like the place that wasn't safe and start banning the guns. So this is not only like a neutral thing, like, oh, it's not going to make people any more or less safe. No. It's going to make people way less safe by banning these guns in the name of safety, right?
So I love that. Again, the way you say things is awesome. Not that they're totally new things. There's things that we both have been saying for a long time, but I love the way you say them. So you said the only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. And again, common sense. I mean, a sign that says bad guy don't carry a gun isn't going to stop a bad guy with a gun, right? So, and I love that even this governor acknowledges, is this message going to be received by the criminals that you're trying to stop? And she point blank says, no. Oh, okay. So the message is to the law-abiding citizens then that they shouldn't carry the guns because they're the ones that are shooting the kids.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was reminding my viewers just this last Friday when this broke. It's like, this only affects the law-abiding, obviously, because criminals by their very nature don't follow laws, and good people generally have a moral compass where they don't need a law to tell them not to murder. That's one of God's commandments. Even people that aren't necessarily Christians know that murder isn't a good thing, and good people aren't going to need this. And I also reminded people that, look, when they outlaw guns, only outlaws are going to own guns. So many people run around and say, well, the right to keep and bear arms for the law-abiding citizen. I'm law-abiding, and with the right permit and all that. It's like, well, hold on, people. What just happened in New Mexico? All these law-abiding people in the Albuquerque area and that county, you're now criminals overnight. So it just goes to show you, you have to think about what the Second Amendment actually protects instead of running around saying, well, I'm law-abiding, so I can do this, but other sections of people can't do that. It can flip on everybody within a second.
And it's important that you talk about, there's a distinction about, you had the example of murder, that when you commit a crime with a gun, the gun is not the problem. It's the person committing the crime. So if you commit a crime with a gun, as a Christian, there's a whole set of rules that we're supposed to go by, right? Things that you said are moral compass, but even those who are not Christian still understand the concepts of, just in general, in a society, you don't walk around murdering or raping or, setting things ablaze, arson, rape, murder, those kinds of things are always wrong. Now, the legal terms, for those of you who are trying to kind of play catch up and understand what your rights are, is one of the comments from Amy P. That I had posted or shared on the screen earlier. You don't know, you can't defend your rights if you don't know what they are, essentially. And you can't fight against the tyranny if you don't know the extent of it. So the distinction in the legal world is this: malum prohibitum versus malum in se or per se, and that is malum prohibitum. Something is against the law. It's bad because it's against the law. It's only bad because it's against the law, because the government has said, no, you can't do this. Cutting hair without a barber's license is malum prohibitum. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. It's just the government made up a rule and said, well, now it's wrong for you to do this if you don't follow our law, our rule, or whatever. Now, malum per se or malum in se or whatever, that is where it's inherently wrong. Rape, arson, murder, those are things that you don't need, like you said to AEDU, you don't need a law that tells you they're wrong. Basically, the purpose of the law is to provide a just form of punishment and perhaps retribution or restitution for a victim in those circumstances. But the law itself isn't needed, because the law isn't going to stop you from it's not like you're going to say, well, I was willing to commit murder, but now that I see it's illegal, I guess I'll think twice about that. No, if you're going to do something so heinous as to commit rape, arson, or murder, then you don't care whether it's illegal or not. So again, it's not having the law against it that's really going to save the lives. Those are in place to provide the punishments, to provide restitution to victims, to figure out real solutions to the problems. Perhaps if we didn't have so many laws, we wouldn't have to make the distinction malum prohibitum or malum in se. I mean, maybe we get rid of all malum prohibitum laws. It's just kind of my thought. But anyway, something else that you said, let's see, where is it? So she talks about, she replied by saying there's one exception to the application of the Constitution, and that is if there's an emergency. And I've declared an emergency. The funny thing is, this exact point has been litigated in courts, state Supreme Courts, U.S. Supreme Courts. It's something that I've argued over and over, especially in these videos since 2020. That's not a thing. Emergency doesn't negate the Constitution. Where in the Constitution does it say, now all of these things are absolute and the supreme law of the land, except if a government official, such as the governor of New Mexico, wants to declare an emergency. As long as there's an emergency, then you don't have to follow some of these parts or most of the parts of the Constitution. No, our Constitution was founded during the time of an emergency. And those words come right from an 1800s case from the U.S. Supreme Court, where they are acknowledging that our Constitution was founded out of a freaking emergency, not some, kumbaya moment where we were all sitting around holding hands, singing songs and said, hey, let's have this contract. No, it's because our rights were being violated. So anyway, before I continue on, I'm going to shut up for a minute because you look like you had something smart to say. So.
No, I agree with you, because it's just literally insane that so many people, even some people quote on our side that are considered conservative, say this. They're like, well, the founding fathers could have never understood a health pandemic, they said, for the last 3 years to the extent that we have now. And I'm thinking, no, they actually had like a sickness with a lot greater propensity towards death going on during the Revolutionary War. Emergency, as far as, like you said, people being tyrannical, they need to look at things like the Boston Massacre that had happened about 5 years or so before the revolution kicked off. 1775, Lexington and Concord, the British trying to confiscate their gunpowder, trying to take their cannons. I'm pretty sure the founding fathers knew exactly what it was like to live in a state of emergency, whether it's to do with some type of flu or whether it's to do with firearms. They knew more about it than hopefully we'll ever know. It was a very, very violent, bloody era, and they literally had to fight to form this country. So I just wonder how much people even know the history of this country that would say things like she did, let alone believe her.
Yeah. And of course, my thoughts go in 6 different directions because I do myself an injustice and read the comments at the same time. Amy P., you're asking about the forensic auditing. Alan Myers, for the Republic. If you Google that or even search for his name in my on my website in the search bar, you should be able to find that forensic audit information. This is a public service mentions yellow fever was running rampant during the time that you were just talking about. It almost killed Washington. Too bad. Oh, well, Washington. Oh, he means Washington, as in George Washington. I was thinking the evil in Washington. I was going to say that is too bad that didn't happen, but I guess no, that's not helpful there. Sorry, my AC has kicked off, I guess. So all of a sudden dying of heat stroke in here. For those of you in Michigan where it's in the 60s, I'm sorry, but I do live in Florida and it's in the mid 80s here. So I'm going to die without the AC on. And I have these two horribly hot lights, but hey, they function. But that is the Liberty Cause trying to kill me slowly as well. So anyway, so yeah, on this topic, one of the things I found, just a few things I wanted to point out that were interesting, and you've mentioned it to AEDU. Some of you in the comments have mentioned this, but I'm trying to get to the point of the comment that I have pinned to the screen here. But she said, no constitutional right, in my view, including my oath, is intended to be absolute. There are restrictions on free speech. There are restrictions on my freedoms. Wow. I mean, those two sentences alone are enough to dissect. But so the elected sheriff in the county that she's trying to implement this, he said this: I have reservations regarding this order. While I understand and appreciate the urgency, the temporary ban challenges the foundation of our Constitution, which I swore an oath to uphold. I am wary of placing my duties in my deputies in positions that could lead to civil liability conflicts, as well as the potential risks posed by prohibiting law-abiding citizens from their constitutional right to self-defense. The Albuquerque Police Department Chief Harold Medina issued a statement saying that his officers would not be enforcing civil violations of the order. So what's interesting when she says the Constitution is not absolute, you've already mentioned it, I've mentioned it, but let's reiterate. What does the Constitution say? Article 6 says the U.S. Constitution is the supreme law of the land. Do we need Bruin or any other case to tell us that? No. I don't care if you ever read a U.S. Supreme Court case, as long as you read the Constitution. And that says that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. It doesn't say except in times of emergencies or where there's an executive order that really is to provide for our safety or well-being, or where kids are tragically murdered or things like that. There's no exceptions there. Her one exception, she must have written in crayon on her version that she had printed out in front of her and then forgot that that was not legit. Another concept we need to keep in mind when she's talking about these rights in the Constitution, she seems to forget these are rights given to us by God. They're simply protected by the government. They're not rights given to us by the government, so they can't just be taken away by the government. It's something we need to keep in mind. Now, right on to finally, Foshin's comment here, or this is a public service. Dude, you got to have some more continuity on your name, on your handles here. It makes it too hard to remember. At least 280. I can't even say. Never mind. I was going to give 2 AEDU props for being the same across the board, but then I can't even say the name half the time. So never mind. Thumbs down to both of you. Anyway, Foshin says, which right is safety? He should have had that emoji in there. That would have made it more priceless. Now, think of this, guys. The term public safety, or even just the word safety, is it in the Constitution? Yes. Now, you might want to look at a state constitution. Now, let's be honest. I didn't look at the New Mexico state constitution. I wanted to before, but I was having all kinds of tech issues. And since I was doing it on my own and Lori's too sick to be able to help with some of those setup things, I just ran out of time. So I could tell you this. Look at your own state's constitution as an example. For many of you, you're probably in Michigan. If not, just hang in there with the conversation and follow along anyway. In Michigan, the term safety appears, let's see, I think it was 6 times in the, oh no, I'm not sure if you guys can see me. My whole screen is black.
I could hear you. There was a weird noise for a second.
Oh, Okay, you can hear me. Can you guys see me?
I can see you. There's just like a feedback noise or something.
Yeah, like a weird beeping.
Yeah.
Okay. I can't see anything, and I don't know what the beeping is because my whole screen went black. I told you guys tech hates me. Literally nothing on my entire computer screen is working. I've never seen such a thing before. It's flashed briefly, but whatever. Anyway, let me get back to what I was saying to
I
you.
can see and hear you now.
You can see and hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I still can't see literally anything on my screen, so shout at me if I need to shut up or if there's somebody saying something. Ending the stream is going to be challenging for me because I literally can't see my screen. But at any rate, so if you look at the state constitution, for example, in the Michigan Constitution, it's talking about, yes, it's 6 times. The word safety is in the Michigan Constitution 6 times. Only 3 of those are in the context of public safety at all. And so those 3 uses, it's talking about where the government can has the authority to suspend the writ of habeas corpus, to provide for the protection of air, water, and other natural resources from pollution, etc., and to own real property for the benefit of public health and safety. So owning property, you can have land for a hospital, you can have land for a police station, etc. That's all that they're talking about in the Michigan State Constitution. Nowhere in there is it talking about, and the other 3 times it's talked about patient safety, safety measures of atomic energy use, and education programs for off-road vehicles and snowmobiles. That has nothing to do with providing for our safety. So I think Foshin's comment was, where is the right to safety? Now let's look at the U.S. Constitution. It's in there once. The word safety is in the U.S. Constitution only one time. And just like in the state of Michigan's Constitution, the first reference of it is actually found in Article 1, Section 9, where they can suspend the writ of habeas corpus unless only in cases of rebellion or invasion when the public safety may require it. That is the only time the word safety is in there. The government has absolutely zero authority to try to provide for our safety. And we have zero rights. She talked about in that towards the end of the video. Oh, I came back. Look at that. I could see my screen. Okay. So, she said at the end of her little video clip that we played there, what about the rights of my right to be safe and the right of these children to be safe? Yeah, we have a right to be safe, but do we have a right to be protected from the government? No. We have a right to be protected from domestic and foreign terrorists, like those who try to defile the Constitution and our very foundations of our republic. But our right to protect ourselves is in the Second Amendment. That's where our safety comes. Our safety comes from our ability to speak freely and expose corruption and speak against tyranny. Our safety comes from our ability in the Second Amendment to provide for our own self-defense and the defense of others. And in many state constitutions, it spells out the defense of the state. We have the right to bear arms. And we talked about that recently in a video. What is the word bear and arms and keep? What is the right to keep and bear arms? What do those really mean? And it means exactly what all the liberals say. Oh, that's not what it means. No, it means to literally hold and show and expose and use in defense to be able to protect yourself and to protect your home and your loved ones. That is exactly what that means. So when it comes to safety, as his comment, now that I can see my screen again, is still on here, says, which right is safety? That's the Second Amendment, people. It's not something unique to executive orders or the governor or the president of the United States or even the Supreme Court of the United States. None of those people have the authority to provide for our safety. We have the authority to provide for our safety. We have the right to provide for our safety, and no government official has the authority to attempt to take that away. I'm going to take a breath because I get a little feisty. But
yeah, Thomas Jefferson talks about safety once too in the Declaration of Independence, but it's in the context it's the opposite of what this governor's doing. He's saying laying its foundation on such principles, organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. So that means we, the people, get to decide what government we want. And it also talks about how all men are created equal and they're endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And then it goes on to say that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men. So the only reason the government exists at all is to secure our natural rights that we're endowed by our creator, and among, but not limited to, our life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And it's all just so simple. And Thomas Jefferson laid it down in plain English where a fourth grader could understand it. And here's the crazy thing. Most fourth graders do actually understand this. If you actually get them one-on-one and talk to them in a bubble, it's just when you have people like this governor and then the collusion with the mainstream media, everything gets flipped upside down. People get indoctrinated into this whole truth is treason in the empire of lies. And when it literally says shall not be infringed, we now have adults saying that that means it shall be infringed. Like, how's this even possible?
yes, because they forgot how to read. They must have been the first products of Common Core. That's all I'm saying on that. But it's interesting. Let's see here. What did we have? Big Bad John. He says, Catherine, am I not correct that presidential or governor's executive orders only apply to the respective government employees? So essentially, do executive orders apply to the executive branch? And I would say to you, yes. And you can look at many of my prior videos all on that topic, especially let's just, even for the sake of argument, to make this super easy, let's look at just governor executive orders. In the Michigan Constitution, Article 5, Section 2, it talks about executive orders. Nowhere else does it allow the governor to issue executive orders. And so, although I argued this point in the Michigan Supreme Court in 2020, even though they said her executive orders were unconstitutional, they declined to, they mentioned my brief, they mentioned my point on that, and they said, well, we don't quite agree with the Restore Freedom brief that the only time a governor can issue executive orders is under Article 5, Section 2 of our state constitution, where you can reorganize the executive branch of government. What's funny about that is they put the period there and didn't bother to say how they could disagree. How is there possibly some other interpretation? Where is the authority for a governor to issue executive orders otherwise? And that's in the state of Michigan. How about in the state of New Mexico? Where does the state constitution allow her to set aside even the state constitution, any of the rights or the restrictions or whatever protected or put into place by the state constitution? Where does it say that? It does not. And she doesn't even allege that it does. She just says applying the constitution is not always absolute. There are exceptions that she gets to make up. So what do you do about those situations? We've had people asking about that. Well, yes, in the comments, I've seen some of them already. Recall. In general. Now, these are things in general. I am not a New Mexico attorney. I have not looked up all of their election laws and all of their procedures. I have not, like I said, recently reviewed their state constitution. It's been 3 years since I've looked at their state constitution. But in general, the process of recall is one that if you have a governor or any government official who is elected and they are trying to pull some sort of garbage like this, whether it's at a local level, a state level, or even bigger, if it's an elected official, look into your state's procedures for recall. It starts with you. It typically starts with a petition where you need to get X amount of signatures, which is usually based on a percentage of how many votes were cast in the last election. And you have a certain time period in which you can do that. But recall. What about impeachment? That's another option. Here's something you guys have probably seen, but in case not, New Mexico State Rep. Stefani Lord, a Republican, said she has already asked legal counsel to start impeachment proceedings against Ms. Grisham. That's wonderful. We have a Republican legislator in New Mexico already starting the impeachment process. Now, she did say that Democratic leadership has basically already said she's barking up the wrong tree and it's going to be a tough road. But she said, I don't care. This is one of those battles that you go to die on this hill. You go and you fight this battle. It is worth every moment of it. Declaratory relief. Now, what is that? That's something that you can do. If you are in, shoot, if you're even of, I would argue that if you are even somebody from another state who visits or travels through New Mexico, you have the ability to go into court and file a case where you are asking the court to grant you declaratory relief, meaning to declare that she's a nut job, her executive order means nothing, and that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, and you have the right to carry your firearm where she says you do not. That would be declaratory relief, and you have standing as long as you're being impacted by this, and you are. Criminal prosecution, of course, that is the question many people have asked about. Who can do something about it? Well, what crime is being committed? I don't know the laws of the state of New Mexico, but I can almost guarantee you she's breaking some. Wouldn't you think, to AEDU?
Yeah, I know of a federal law she's breaking for sure, but New Mexico law, I'm sure as well.
Yeah, so New Mexico. So you have your state attorney general, you have local prosecutors, you have state police, you have sheriffs and local law enforcement like police chiefs or police officers. All of those individuals who are in an area where it's being impacted, where she is trying to implement this order, every single one of those people in the executive branch has a duty to step up and do something to start criminal prosecution against this woman. She should have every single police agency and sheriff's department that's impacted by this involved in this. She should have all of the local prosecutors, the state attorney general, all over her for criminal prosecution. Any single one of them can do it, but they all need to step up and do it. Now, as far as federal law, well, I don't know about what law you would talk about, but I would think at the very least 18 USC section 241 would be a good place to start, where she has committed a felony by conspiring to deny people of their constitutionally protected rights. Do you have another statute that you have found that she would be violating federally, or?
Well, there's quite a few, but that was one of the ones I was going to say right away too. People, I guess, refer to it as deprivation of rights under color of law. And from what I remember in that U.S. code, you can get a long prison sentence just by depriving people of those rights. But if somebody gets injured or killed from it, you can actually get the death penalty. So if people die because they normally would have been armed, but they weren't armed, this statute allows her to be punished by up to and including death, from what I read.
Exactly. So just like, for example, putting sick COVID patients purposely into nursing homes and causing their death, that happened. I know that would never happen. I'm just saying, if that did happen in such a state like Michigan, where a governor should be and could be held criminally liable for that, death sentence, yes. So exactly here in this New Mexico example, if I lived in New Mexico and I find myself in a grocery store, and normally I would be open carrying or concealed carrying or whatever, lawfully carrying, obeying all firearms laws, which are inherently unconstitutional anyway, but I was doing so normally. But then because of this, I was prohibited from carrying. And then a masked gunman comes in and starts shooting up the place, and no one is there to be able to stop him. And then, I lose my life. My husband would be able to then, start a civil lawsuit, but a criminal case could begin, and the governor of New Mexico would be responsible for my death, and she would be able to face the death penalty. So exactly correct on that. Do you happen to, off the top of your head, know of any of the others? I know there's a lot out there, but I don't know them off the top of my head.
Well, there are, and But really, though, we just go back to the same thing. And I'm repeating this because we need some more actual common sense in this country. The supreme law of the land is the Constitution, and it says so with the Supremacy Clause. In 1789, they wrote the Bill of Rights, and it was ratified in 1791. And the second thing they wrote was a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That's literally the only law you need right there. Shall not be infringed. That doesn't say the government granted you the right. No, that's a mandate to the government. And shall, in the legal sense, is a very strong term. There's no ambiguity there. Shall not be infringed. And that's it. We shouldn't even have to talk about it any further than that.
Right. So as far as that criminal prosecution, though, who should be involved in that? You might be wondering. Well, I think the U.S. Attorney General should be involved in that. Assistant U.S. attorneys who are in the state, stationed in the state of New Mexico, should be involved. The DOJ should be getting involved actively. The FBI should be getting involved actively. If you are any one of those people, then do your damn job and prosecute the crimes where they occur. And one of the most tragic scenarios we can ever see is where our own government crumbles because our own government officials are not held to the standard of following the Constitution, the very foundations of our government in the first place. And that's a paraphrasing of many cases from the U.S. Supreme Court directly. One last thing to mention on as far as what else can you do, civil cases under statutes like 42 USC section 1983. So for example, this is actually talking about, this is from an article. The New Mexico Bill of Rights guarantees the right to keep and bear arms for security, defense, and all other lawful purposes. Under the New Mexico Civil Rights Act, so again, that's going to be a state law. Under the New Mexico Civil Rights Act, signed by this woman, a person whose rights are violated may sue to recover damages and obtain injunctive relief, meaning also to stop them from violating rights like this. And damages may be awarded up to $2 million per person whose rights were violated. So again, that's the state version of a civil rights claim. But there is also federal cases that can be brought as well under such as 42 USC section 1983, et cetera. So again, you guys, this is, there are things that you can do. There are things that government officials at the state level and local levels can do. There are things that government officials at the federal level could and should be doing. There's a lot going on, a lot that we can do to her and to other governors and other government officials that continue this lawlessness on any topic. These are things that can be done.
Well, this begs the question, I think, and I've been thinking about this, about a lot of issues, including this. Is there not even one conservative, meaning wants to actually conserve this republic and the Constitution, right? Is there not one conservative DA or ADA in this whole country that could convene a grand jury? Because I think they would have standing, excuse me, anywhere in the country, because no matter what area you're in, somebody from your area could be looking to go vacation there, work there, or just go there to peaceably assemble and protest while armed this governor's order. And this is having a chilling effect on people's right to peaceably assemble and to keep and bear arms at the same time. If this was the opposite, for example, you'd have a liberal DA convening a grand jury to arrest the governor on this. It would have already happened. I mean, they're trying to put Trump in prison. I'm not a big Trump fan because of things he's done to the Second Amendment. However, they've gone way overboard with him. Now, why isn't there somebody, quote unquote, on our side? Is there not one freedom-loving DA that'll go in there and say, all right, I convened a grand jury. You're indicted under 18 USC 241, 242. Like, you know what I'm saying, right?
Yes, absolutely. I do want to clarify for people because one of my good friends, the Liberty Cause, is pointing out 18 USC section 241, but he also brings in section 242. You guys, 90% of you that are watching and commenting on this, the people that I know who you are when you're commenting, you have no ability to use 18 USC section 242 because it has nothing to do with your race. That is the main basis for section 242. That's why you need to look at 241. People who only just read the little parts of a statute that they want to focus on and then they run with it, you're part of the problem because you're doing what they're doing to the Constitution. They're reading little teeny pieces and parts and then running with it like it's the complete story, and it's not. So let's not do that. Let's read the law for what it is. It's not a very long law, but section 241 is even shorter, and guess what? It has an even broader scope of what you can be in trouble for. The main difference between 242 and 241, 242, you can get in trouble and be prosecuted by yourself, but it's for, trampling the rights of someone basically because of the color of their skin, versus 241. The caveat is that it has to be a conspiracy to violate rights. And clearly in any of these government actor scenarios, they're not acting alone. They're trying to conspire. At the very least, she's trying to get all law enforcement agencies to conspire with her, let alone the two nincompoops who sat to her left and her right during this press conference, who looked, I think they looked horrified. I think they looked totally embarrassed to be sitting up there listening to some of the stuff she was saying. I think they were hoping that she was going to somehow spin this to making it sound legit. And they were listening as every word was stumbling out of her mouth. And they were thinking, shut up, just shut up now. I mean, the one guy looked like he couldn't possibly shrink any further inside of himself as she was speaking. And rightfully so. You should have stood up and said, are you stupid? I mean, he should have arrested her right there. But, of course, that wouldn't have made news either. But, hey. Oh, boy.
Yeah.
So Jeff Hart, you're commenting on Facebook. Hopefully, that was 6 minutes ago. Hopefully you caught what I was saying about civil cases, filing a civil case under the Civil Rights Act, filing for declaratory relief, filing for injunctive relief, where it's literally telling them they have to stop, filing criminal complaints, participating in recalls, whatever that process looks like in New Mexico. Of course, that is for citizens living in New Mexico only. Urging state legislators to participate in the impeachment, whether you live there or not. Although if you live there, if you have a connection to New Mexico, utilize that and very clearly state that as the very first sentence of your email to these legislators in New Mexico. Hey, this is my connection to New Mexico. Therefore, what I have to say means more than just the average Joe. And this is specifically what I'm asking you to do. And that is to support the immediate impeachment of this dangerous governor who thinks her oath of office has exceptions. Those are literally her words. So, definitely, even if you don't live in New Mexico, flood every single one of those legislators in New Mexico with emails and social media posts about impeaching this governor. Now, if you're thinking it's across party lines only, keep in mind that I have a post that I shared earlier from today. I don't know if more have joined, but already 5 Democrat legislators from New Mexico have put together a press release calling for the governor to immediately rescind this order. Immediately. 5 of them. And you know who they quoted? They quoted the law enforcement officials that I was quoting to you earlier, which it would have made my job easier preparing for today's episode because I could have just copied and pasted from their letter, but too bad I didn't know about their letter until afterwards. But so 5 Democrats got together to say, hey, Democrat governor, are you stupid? Did you not know how to read? Do you not know what an oath means? They are on board with putting a stop to it. Now, unfortunately, their letter doesn't seem to go far enough to say that there should be some sort of accountability for the governor. But who knows? If these 5 are willing to take this stance this early on in this issue, then I say contact them. Flood those 5 legislators with all kinds of praise and support for their stance to support the Constitution, and then encourage them to participate and support these impeachment proceedings. That's exactly what you can be doing no matter where you live. But again, if you live in or work in New Mexico. Explain that connection of New Mexico with those legislators so they know you have a higher priority in their feedback.
Yeah, and I would note there's actually Democrats coming out on social media, even David Hogg of all people, condemning this governor, saying that basically she went too far. And I know why they're mad. It's not because they want to cut us any slack. It's not because they support the Second Amendment. The other side wants to keep this frogs boiling in a pot scenario where they can just keep slowly but surely chipping it away until we have no guns left at all. I know that's their end goal. It's obvious. But they're like, no, 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 stop, stop, stop. Don't do that. That was like a couple years from now that we were actually going to go through and ban them outright. You can't do that because it's going to wake people up. So the fact that a lot of gun grabbers on the left are mad at her for going too far means there's actually a little good news in this, believe it or not, because it's finally waking people up that, like, yes, there's people in government right now that are literally coming for your guns, saying they want to ban every last one of them. Even with a permit, you can't carry it at the ready. And people are like, whoa, shoot, somebody just tried this. Maybe I should wake up just a little bit and get more involved. So I'm hoping we can get some good out of it that way, right?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, and keep in mind, guys, I mean, if I do nothing else, hopefully at the least encourage you, aside from educating you. And the encouragement comes from that every little bit that the devil has intended for evil and for our destruction, God can turn around and use those things for our benefit. I mean, my own current situation, it's an awful tragedy that I had to lose one of my longtime best friends, but I consider it a huge blessing that we have gained this new child into our family, this 15-year-old. And, you know, Emma has seen it as a blessing to have another big sister. It's, you know, so you could take whatever God can take, whatever is meant for evil, and turn it into good. And so, yeah, if this super crazed gun grabbing Democrat can be, you know, admonished by the normal gun grabbers, it's exposing some of their agendas a little too quickly. Hopefully things can start to unravel. Hopefully you get some of those Democrats that maybe are more moderate, and it's kind of like COVID, all the crap getting so ridiculous so quick. Might be the thing it takes to shake people and wake them up and make them go, for real? Are you really still on the fence about this issue? Are you really going to support these kinds of policies? So this could be one of the very things that helps. And being even closer to an election, how could this not be something that we could use to clear house of all the craziness, of all the corruption, of all the unconstitutional behaviors? There are ways to do it.
I've literally talked on the phone with a Michigan legislator yesterday, texted one this morning, and this is like a light day. So I'm not a lobbyist. I'm not wealthy. I'm not famous. I'm not anybody. So whoever's listening, you can literally like go to your state capital, or you can go on their website, get their email, get their phone number. Unless you just have the biggest POS rep ever, if you call them and ask their staff and say, no, I would like to personally be able to speak to my rep, it might take a few days. It might be till the next week because they have meetings and schedules. But I bet you $1 if you put forth just a due amount of effort, you will be able to actually talk to your state rep and senator. And that's why we need to get involved on the state level so much.
And let me ask you, because this is something I didn't realize about you. How far from the Lansing state capitol are you? How long in a typical, like, you know, if you're leaving at 4:30 and you're driving through rush hour to get back or whatever, how long would it take you to get home or to get to the capitol?
Well, I mean, a couple hours during rush hour, except for she's trying to finally fix the dang roads. So now the roads are so messed up that it could take hours and hours and hours. I mean, sometimes you just sit there in gridlock. So I don't know, 2-3 hours, depending.
2-3 hours, one direction for you to go from home to the Capitol or vice versa. I just want to clarify.
Yeah, if it was like 3 a.m, I could do it in an hour and 20 minutes. But that's not the business hours that they're operating in.
Exactly. So I say this because also I was super excited that you were willing to squeeze this conversation in today. But what do you do for you just kind of, you're independently wealthy, or do you work for a living, or?
Yeah, I'm a landscaper. Yesterday I was putting down rocks next to somebody's house, and then after that I cut a lawn, and today I still have to go out and move some more rocks. So that's what I do, like manual labor landscaping.
So you mean you work for a living? You work a 9 to 5, and sometimes Saturdays and Sundays and evenings.
More like 9 to 9 in the landscaping business till dark, but yeah. And then one of the biggest financial burdens to me is going and fighting for the Second Amendment. So I have to mow more lawns and move more rocks to be able to fight, because the other side has Soros and Bloomberg and all of that, and our side doesn't have that much to support us.
Right. Especially in Michigan, all the big money walked away from the Republican Party when the grassroots got involved and started taking over. So that's been fun as well. But not only that, so you own your own business. You work your butt off. You work basically 9 to 9. You're not independently wealthy, but you also have a family.
Yes. Yeah.
So and it takes you on average at least 2.5 hours one way to get to the Capitol to participate in a rally or meet with your legislator there or to sit in a legislative hearing. So that could be easily a 5-hour round trip, and that's not even including the time that you're there. So you guys, the reason why I'm asking all these ridiculous questions of him that I know the answer to is actually because I didn't know the answer. I did not know exactly how far away he was at first, because I lived on the opposite side of the state and we often met at the Capitol or at a friend's house that's not too awful far from the Capitol. And so I didn't realize, but think of it this way. If you want to tell me or tell, your buddy next to you or your neighbor or your coworker, gosh, I just don't have the time to fight these issues. I just don't have the time to go and meet with my state rep or my senator or, to whatever the issue is, however you're trying to get involved. Do you think my good friend 2A has the time? If it takes the man 5 hours round trip to get there to participate in these things, and then he's running his own business 9 to 9, and he's funding this Second Amendment freedom fight, and he's got a family, how do you think he has the free time to do this? He doesn't either. So again, people like me, people like him, people like Accurate Amanda, or who we've had on our channel a few times, or our friend Foshin, who's been in the chat today with This is a Public Service is his YouTube handle. None of us are independently wealthy, people that have jets and have, ways to just travel around and shoot from here to there and fight the good fight. We're putting in the work. So you know what you need to do, what you can do and should do and must do is do your part. Figure out a way to make it work. Carpool with someone if you have to. Figure out joint childcare or whatever you got to do. Bring your kids with you so they could see what it takes to fight for freedom. They could hear you speak at events. They could hear you engaging in conversation with others who are like-minded and wanting to fight for those freedoms as well. Don't sit on the sidelines and don't sit there all lazy and act like, well, but the worst of 2020 and 2021, that's behind us now. And, I just don't have to be active or involved and I can let other people do it. Who do you think is going to do it if you're not even being loud about it anymore? Is your state rep even going to do it? We have people like Jamie Thomas. We have people like my good friend Angela Regas, who's been in the freedom fight along with me for many years, and they're getting weary. They need to see you there. They need to physically see your ass, show up in a seat, sit at a committee meeting, be across from them in their office to say hello, give them a phone call, shoot them an email. They need to hear you and know that you care about these issues and you're there to support them. Don't let them be the only ones fighting on the front lines, because they are going to go by the wayside. The few good ones that make it in. Now, I mentioned Michigan state reps, but same holds true for senators, same holds true for state reps and senators and people across the country, county commissioners or city commissioners. Make sure you are doing your part to speak up and speak out and show support for the ones that are doing right. You can't underestimate that. And you can't say that you're too busy. You can't say, I've got a family. I've got a family. I've got a bigger family than what I had. 2AEDU's got a family. And I do have evidence that his wife exists. That's an inside joke for Foshin, because I'm pretty sure that he doesn't actually have a real wife. We live in the same county, and I've never seen her. I've never spoken on the phone with her. So it's kind of the thing. He even drove me and the girls to the airport to get to Michigan to finalize the guardianship hearing and for the memorial service. And I was on his property, and I was like, so where's this wife? Nope, she's not. Doesn't exist. But I have seen 2AEDU's wife. See, I can't say 2AEDU. It's not that hard. I can type it, but I can't say it. I have seen his wife on camera after a live stream before, but that was so long ago, I don't even remember what she looks like. So she could be an imposter too.
You know what I find interesting is you go to my Michigan state capitol, and it's always lobbyists going in and out. It's like lobbyists are just following each other in and out of all their offices all day long. So don't forget, guys, if you don't do it, somebody else is doing it, and it's called lobbyists. And then when actually a real person shows up, you'll watch the reps or senators' eyes light up like, whoa, a constituent? Like, make way, a constituent's here to actually see me? Because none of us ever show up at all. It's just lobbyists and people that are funded by large businesses, PACs, all these different things. And when you actually show up, you don't have the money they have, but you have a different type of capital because you represent that consent of the governed that Thomas Jefferson talked about when we started our country. So keep that in mind.
Right. And if they know that you're willing to drive there, especially if your district is far away, but even if it's not, if they know you're willing to drive there, if they know that you're willing to speak with them and look them in the eye face to face, or sit with them, across from them at a committee hearing or something of that nature, they know you mean business.
Yeah.
If you're willing to give that resource of your time and your gas money to go there and identify yourself and your position on the issues, that speaks volumes. When Foshin and Mike and Emma and I went to the Florida State Capitol on a Second Amendment bill, House Bill 543, the one the NRA touted as constitutional carry, which did nothing to ensure we actually have constitutional carry here in the state of Florida. I went to speak out on that bill and had this whole big thing about the actual parts of the Constitution and what that really entails. And then found out when we got there, they were only going to give people 2 minutes to speak. And then halfway through the speakers, or a third of the way through the speakers, they shortened it to 1.5 minutes. And I had to figure out on the fly, crap, now what am I going to say? And I had to figure out how to make it as effective as it could possibly be, identifying who I am and why I was there and what I had to say in 1.5 minutes time. But they needed to know that. And my state rep wasn't there, but the neighboring state rep was there, Webster Barnaby, and he knew who I was because I took the time the month before to speak at the county delegation meeting and speak on some of these very issues, such as the Second Amendment. So he recognized me, and those kinds of things, they work. Now, when 2AEDU walks in the Capitol, you don't think Democrats and Republicans alike recognize him and know who he is? Well, I mean, I guess it depends. Are you wearing a suit every time when you go in? Because I'm not sure I would recognize you either.
I do, and often to cut down on the drive a little bit, which makes it even more hectic, is I'll bring a suit to my shop. So I'll have to transition from landscaping clothes into a suit, go to Lansing, because my shop is on the way to Lansing, and then come back. And yeah, I do wear a suit there.
So he's serious about it. But you know what? If you don't have the money, you could barely scrounge up enough gas money to get to your state capitol, and you want to make an impact, hey, if you just wear what you can, but the more respectable you are, the more of an impact you're going to have, quite frankly. And maybe if your message is strong enough and loud enough, in a way, you can come across with an impact without any bearing on what kind of clothing you have on that day. I would suggest at least wearing some clothing that day. Uh, but your impact can still be meaningful regardless of if your clothes came from your selection of being outside and working with grass stains and whatnot, or it's your Sunday best. Either way, but keep in mind, again, like 2A was saying, the other side has all this money. It has this Soros money, and they have the overpriced people in suits that come there to wine and dine these legislators.
Yeah.
And their entire suit costs more than my entire car does. And that's how they're gonna, that's how they roll. So you want to look your best and come across your best, come across as a professional, and let them know what you're there to say. I mean, shoot, you know what? I'd say if you're a nurse or a doctor or a veterinarian or whatever, go in your scrubs and your name tag. I mean, whatever. Show up in your profession as a professional. Or choose to go a step higher, like my good friend here, who would be wearing the grass stain stuff 9 to 5 and changes out to a suit to go there. Either
Well,
way, make the statement, show up.
yeah, it shouldn't matter what you wear and all that, but it's just the reality of things. You only get one chance to make a first impression, and they wear suits most of the time when they're on the house floor. So I'm like, no, I don't want these people to look down on me. I want to go there equally dressed as them, equally, if not more well spoken than them, and for us to look at each other eye to eye like peers. I don't want to be down here while they're looking down on top of me. That's just starting off, like, I don't know, to fail if you do it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Our point is to try to speak to people where they're at as well. So, in terms of, we don't want to be the ones speaking on these high level issues and then it missing because it's way over their heads. You got to speak to your audience, know who your audience is, but keep in mind where I started when I spoke to my, my state reps and senators and whatnot. I started with, you guys took an oath to the Constitution. You know exactly what that's supposed to be, and it's not this, and it's not that, and it's not this. It's not doing what's politically expedient or what's going to get you reelected. It's not listening to what a judge says or a high court says on any particular case. It's not deferring to legal counsel. It's not doing any of these things. You took an oath to uphold and defend and support that Constitution yourself. That means you are alone responsible for reading it, knowing it, and following it. And that's what you need to remind these people, so you could start with that higher level and then go right on into your topic of conversation about your Second Amendment issue, your medical freedom issue, your parental rights issue, whatever those issues may be, because we know there are plenty of freedom fighting issues all across the country that need to be fought right now. So absolutely.
And let me clarify one more thing real quick here. I was
Yeah.
being very specific. I wear a suit and look a certain way when I'm going to the actual Capitol building, to either committee or like the House or Senate floor session. That's what I do that. Now, I also go around and see reps in many, many other places. So if I'm going to see them at a Second Amendment rally or at the county fair, or if they're at a local bar or diner or whatever, no, then I just wear like whatever. I just go there just like everybody else. So it's just when you go into a committee or you go into the House chamber, there's just kind of like a certain decorum and etiquette where if you look the part, you're not looked at like, ooh, what's that scummy dude doing in here when there's an official meeting? You know what I'm saying, right?
Well, same thing as, you're going to court. Yeah, you have the right to show up in jeans and a t-shirt if you're defending yourself and you just want to show up like whatever with sneakers and a t-shirt, whatever. You can do that. But are you going to be the most effective? Even when it's not the judge you're trying to impress, it's the jury. It's the jury of your own peers. How are you going to come across? The person who is speaking in a suit, who stands up tall and speaks with confidence, is going to make a lot more impact than the person who's just kind of slouching and says, yeah, whatevs, and wears the sneakers and jeans and t-shirts with the whatever kind of message of the day on them. I mean, that kind of message isn't going to get through as much, but they're going to instantly think that they need to listen more and pay more attention to you if you show up and look the part of somebody who is engaged in government, in discourse, etc. But yeah, if you're just going to talk with your state reps, there's the Americans for Prosperity. I don't know if they're still doing it in Michigan anymore, but they were doing, like day at the Capitol, and they would do presentations on various issues. And then we would walk around and talk with our various state reps. Back then, I think it was, I'd talk with Matt Maddock and Julie Kelly and some other state reps. And, it was, it was just whatever we were wearing that day. And I probably went business casual. But yeah, I wasn't worried about dressing like I was going into a courtroom. I don't think I ever wore a suit any of those days. But then again, we weren't going into the Capitol for an actual legislative session or a committee meeting or something of that nature. If I'm doing that, then I'm going to try to look the part, basically. And even when I spoke at the committee meeting here in the Florida State Legislature this year, well, I've gained a crap ton of weight since I moved down here, so I don't exactly have the suits that fit me, especially ones that, I'm not going to sweat to death in. So no, I didn't go in a full-blown suit to speak, but I dressed as nice as I could for the weight that I've gained with the temperature we had. and Mike dressed up nice. He could still wear what he wore in, the 12th grade. So that's that. Any other? I see there's been some comments and questions and things going on in the chat about various things. Is there anything else that you want to bring up or share or ask or throw out as a question?
Well, I think we covered quite a bit. I have to get back to landscaping here soon, so I'm pretty much good.
All right. Well, I do hope that you stay dry today, because I've heard on West Michigan radio that I listen to it every day anyway, that it's been rainy, rainy, rainy. So hopefully we're not
in the rain yesterday. Yep.
Yeah. So hopefully rain and in the 60s, those two together make for a cold work day. Not that it doesn't get colder in Michigan, but it's just not that pleasant for September. So anyway, it was a pleasure to have this conversation with you. I encourage those of you, Lori normally does the whole sharing out on all the platforms thing, and I just can't do two things at one time today. I couldn't even do the one because my screen just went black again. Oh, it did. It actually did. It shut me out. Okay, well, anyway, I can't see me anymore. I don't know if you guys can see me. But anyway, check his channel out, 2A-EDU, on YouTube and Rumble. And do you also do Facebook?
Facebook and locals, yeah.
Facebook and locals, okay. But you still do some live videos on Rumble?
I post to Rumble too. My live streams are on YouTube.
Oh, live streams on YouTube and then posting Rumble. Okay. So anyway, guys, make sure to check his channel out and support the work that he does, which helps not only the Second Amendment advocates there in Michigan, but across our country. But also, take a moment to check out some of those freedom fighters that have been active in the chat today and see what you could do to support them. But like I said, reach out to all those state reps, to the governor's office directly, any of those people in the New Mexico government. Reach out to those, the sheriff and the chief of police and others who have already spoken out against these actions and this order. So do your best to encourage those who are taking a step in the right direction already, as well as asking for specific actions to be taken going forward, definitely by all parties involved. There's always something you can do. So with that, I will I guess say goodbye to you, to AEDU, and then I'm going to leave it up for I'm going to pose some questions to our viewers for going forward, even though they can't see me anymore. Can you see me?
I cannot see you, but I can hear you.
Okay. Of course. Technology is awesome. Okay. Well, have a great day, and I will see you sometime soon, I'm sure.
All right, thanks, Catherine, and thanks for hanging out with me, chat.
All right, guys. So let's see. What can I do? I'm going to stop my video so you at least see my picture. And I will, yeah, I have nothing else to put on there. Basically, guys, I just wanted to ask you guys what your thoughts are about some things. So we've had some comments, some feedback. I get some snail mail every now and then from supporters and viewers and things like that. And some ideas have been shared where people are asking for me to do 10 to 20-minute videos on topics and essentially upload those to the various platforms on a wide variety of topics, from the administrative state to, current events such as this order and things going on. So I'm going to ask you guys, what do you guys think about if we have between 1 and 3 videos like that posted every week on our YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, TikTok, Rumble accounts, Facebook, if I didn't mention that. And basically from there, that's going to be the main thing. And once a month, instead of once a week, we will do our live stream like we did here. Thinking about doing once, like maybe the first week of the month, we'll do first Tuesday of September, first Tuesday of October, first Tuesday of October, first Tuesday of November, first Tuesday of December. And then thinking about doing the second Tuesday, trying out Twitter Spaces, because then you guys can actually call in and we can see how that conversation develops. And basically the idea being that those lives would really be kind of recapping the shorter videos that we had posted throughout the prior couple of weeks, and opening it up to questions and conversation about those topics. And then the third week of the month on that Tuesday, doing a live on the podcasting platform Podbean, where you can call in through the app and participate. You can comment like you do here, but you can also have your voice literally heard and ask questions and make comments. That's kind of what I'm thinking I'd like to start doing and try that out for the rest of the month. Again, we would just do the video live, a live video just like this, just that 1 week of the month to keep that conversation going, but otherwise making sure we're getting a reasonable amount of content out to you guys to keep that freedom fight going, and hopefully enable me to be a good parent to all of our kids that we have in our house now, as well as to be able to help behind the scenes for all these freedom fighters that are dealing with all of these various issues. So let me see. I'm going to scroll in the comments, see if you guys have any comments on any of that so far. Yes, he was a great guest to have on the show. It was awesome to have him on. Let's see. Just looking, man, you guys had a lot of comments. So I'm looking at this comment. Sounds great. Whatever works for you. Looks like call in would be huge, says the Liberty Cause. I wish I could figure out how to do call-ins and still have it video live streaming, but we have, zilch for the financial side of things to try to find something that would encompass all of that at the same time. Ron said that sounds terrific. Let's see. MC on YouTube says, what is weird, my representative, Mr. John Molinar, just sent an email concerned with paper straws. Well, John Molinar is a wonderful guy, but not the best congressman that you could ever have. But he is, I believe now, I want to say it's the 4th district of Michigan, which has been gerrymandered to stretch across the entire middle of the state and encompass counties that it never did before. Anyway, great guy, wonderful guy. Not the best government official. Do your best to speak with him directly, repeatedly, and that is the best way to see results out of your congressman if it is John Molinar. Let's see here. I support this decision. I'm assuming, Foshin, that is you talking about the way that I was talking about handling things going forward with videos and doing different things like that. Okay. Oh, Roger Sullivan on Facebook is talking about paying for Zoom Pro so I could try calling in for a year. I assume that means with video. So I will look into that and I will take you up on that. If that's something that can work with all the other pieces that we have in play, I will definitely do that. So I will contact you. About that. And yeah, 2AEDU comments that he wants you to focus on your state representatives first. Congress is its own animal. And that is true. We got enough freedom fight going on at the state level, whether you're talking about things at the state level in New Mexico, state level in the state of Michigan, or the state of Florida. Keep your state reps and state senators at the forefront of your attention right now, because they are the ones that have, quite frankly, the most impact on all of these issues as they're going on, and it gives you a good place to start. So I appreciate the compliment to this is a public service. He says that any content I put out would be valuable to the people. I certainly hope that I can keep up with that sentiment and keep it valuable for you guys. So I will do that. We will, if you haven't participated in our Tuesday True or False question, we do have that posted on YouTube today. I thought of getting that posted right around 10, and then time escaped me. Lori was ill. I was following up with our special guest for today, and all of a sudden I was like, holy crap, I never did post the question. So I did end up posting it before the show today. Go ahead and answer that question. If you've listened to even 30 seconds of any of the show today, you'll be able to know what the answer is. But go ahead and encourage others as well. Share this video with those around you. We are also going to be limiting where we're posting. We're no longer going to be posting to Instagram or Telegram or Pinterest. Telegram, I would love to do more with, but just not enough people actively engaged on that platform to make it worth the time. I want to make sure that I am intentional with my time. I have to be intentional with my time because Mike and I still have not gone on a single vacation since 2019. We have had to travel to Michigan several times, but it's been either freedom fighting in court or getting guardianship of this 15-year-old, or for several funerals in the last year or so. So at any rate, yes, we're trying to be very intentional as to not lose our minds. Our fight against the city down here, by the way, is still ongoing. And we are hoping to hear good news soon, but quite frankly, no news is good news at this point. So I'm going to roll with it. But we're trying to take all this in stride. And of course, I have to figure out when and how I want to get the lawsuit rolling against the Allegan County officials who violently arrested me and illegally pursued charges against me for almost 2 years on that Election Day 2020 case. So keep that in mind. If you want to support that at all, I would love to have your support. Send letters of encouragement, pray for that venture. You could also donate financially so I have enough to cover the costs of depositions and transcripts and court filing fees. There's going to be thousands of dollars, and we're already $3,000 in the hole from the last one. We've not raised enough just for the case of defending myself that they brought against me. So this new case against them, where they have, essentially unlimited resources, is going to be a challenge, and I will need you guys to support me and back me in that. So at any rate, let's see. Okay. Looks like, yes, I do plan on being a guest on 2AEDU's channel as well sometime soon. And we were going to try to make it work when I was in Michigan, but he was on the other side of the state, and with all of his work, we just couldn't make it work. So at any rate, it's been a pleasure to have you guys all in the chat today and viewing this live stream, I will do essentially what we've been calling the Constitution segment recap. I will do a 10-minute video this week, just the same, but keep in mind that we will not do another live stream until the first week of October. So share your thoughts and opinions about different topics that you think we should be covering in these 10-minute videos. And I'll do my best to get as many of them as I can covered, but I'm trying to be realistic, shooting for 1 to 3 topics a week. But we'll see. We'll see what comes up and what I can do. But it's been a pleasure. Thanks so much, everyone. And keep on fighting the good fight. Have a great day.